Florida Governor DeSantis, sorry, called GOP presidential primary rival Nikki Haley's recent proposal for social media verification dangerous and unconstitutional and compared it to the Chinese Communist government. Haley, the former South Carolina governor turned Trump appointee, is gaining ground on the former president in key states while DeSantis sees falling poll numbers. Haley floated the idea of verifying the identity of all social media users during a Fox News interview in the context of a reported rise in anti-Semitism amid Israel's ongoing war against Hamas to Gaza. She called anonymous post a national security threat. DeSantis blasted the idea in a post on X, formerly Twitter, Tuesday evening. You know who were anonymous writers back in the day? Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, and James Madison, when they wrote the Federalist Papers, he wrote, they were not national security threats, nor are the many conservative Americans across the country who exercise their constitutional right to voice their opinions without fear of being harassed or canceled by the school they go to or the company they work for. The rivalry between DeSantis and Haley has gotten increasingly heated as both vie for attention under Trump, who remains the frontrunner by a wide margin despite his mounting legal issues. Haley on Tuesday called on social media companies to show America their algorithm and said such a plan would cut down online tension and root out foreign adversaries seeking to sow discord in America. You're going to get some civility when people know their name is next to what they say, and they know their pastor and their family members going to see it, she said. It's going to help our kids, and it's going to help our country. DeSantis' campaign has been struggling to blunt Haley's rise after 3 GOP presidential debates since August. The next debate is slated for December 6th. Polls have shown the former United Nations ambassador under Trump closing in on second place position. DeSantis had a grip on early after announcing his candidacy. During a radio interview in Haley's home state of South Carolina this week, DeSantis questioned Haley's conservative bona fides, recalling the protests that erupted across the country after George Floyd, a black man, was killed by a white Minneapolis police officer during a minor arrest in 2020. I remember when the George Floyd riots were happening. I called out the National Guard, DeSantis said in an interview that aired on the conservative Terra show. I said, I'm standing with police. She was tweeting that it needed to be personal and painful for every single person. I'm thinking to myself, why does that need to be personal and painful for you or me? We had nothing to do with it. DeSantis accused Haley of adopting this left-wing mindset and accepting the narrative. DeSantis was referring to Haley's 2020 tweet about after Floyd's death, in which he posted about empathy, writing that it was important to understand that the death of George Floyd was personal and painful for me. In order to heal, it needs to be personal and painful for everyone. Haley and DeSantis' feud has escalated as the January start of the Iowa caucus looms. Both have made early primary states like Iowa and South Carolina key battlegrounds as they hope to knock Trump off his double-digit frontrunner status. Each raised more than $1 million in the 24 hours after the third GOP presidential debate last week in Miami, which Trump skipped. Haley's campaign recently took out a $10 million ad buy targeting DeSantis in Iowa and New Hampshire. So before we get to the main story here, which is about social media censorship, I'm not a fan of Haley. I said before, she is wrong on pretty much every issue. I mean, even a lot of the fiscal conservatives can get foreign policy right. The only thing she and I probably would agree on is Ukraine, and even that's like more debatable, but she's just bad on pretty much everything. But isn't it sad that to criticize her, DeSantis has to reach back 3 years ago to a tweet about an incident that involved neither one of them? They have no jurisdiction over Minneapolis or Minnesota or anything relating to that state. And if you read the tweet that Haley posted, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it. Where she wrote, "This has to be personal." Like I guess what I'm getting at is, seeing a tweet as, dare I say, mundane as the one she wrote. It's important to understand the death of George Floyd was personal and painful for me. In order to heal, it needs to be personal and painful for everyone. A tweet so non-policy related, so non-threatening, so just really just saying, hey, people were affected by this man being killed during a minor arrest, and the brutality of it all. And even if you don't necessarily side with, BLM or whatever other group, you still can look at that and say that shouldn't have happened. It's crazy that this tweet that was, I literally see nothing wrong with DeSantis, like she was going with the left wing victim. What a scumbag to have to reach back, especially for something like that. If you want to bring up a speech she made 3 years ago about getting rid of abortion rights, go ahead. But there's nothing wrong with that tweet at all. Like it is as bare bones of a nebulous, sympathetic statement as you can get. So for him to try and use that against her is just gross. Now let's get into her social media idea. Responding to her first, she says you're going to get some civility when people know their name is next to what they say and they know their pastor and their family members going to see it. It's going to help our kids, going to help our country. So I agree with the general sentiment that on social media, people write whatever they want, they say whatever they want because they think that they can get away with it. No, there will be no accountability in their real life. This is why you've had people on here. I mean, insulting someone's whatever, but we've had people that, make death threats, just a range of statements they probably wouldn't make if they could hide their face. But the problem with social media is that even when there's steps to verify who someone is, it still isn't really conducive to ensuring any kind of quality control. Like you go to somewhere like YouTube or Twitter or Facebook or any of these sites, yeah, you have an email that you put in, but the email could be a fake name. You can use a fake name on that site, get a fake picture. I mean, even with the steps that would theoretically be able to make people more accountable, it still really isn't that much. And it's like, I totally get where somebody would want, let's say if a person is threatening people, to find out who that is. But if you're talking about someone who's saying, Israel's trash, maybe they're actually, because we've talked before about they accuse anyone that sides with Palestine, not Hamas, with the general position of not agreeing with what Hamas did, but also wanting people to recognize that the Israeli government has tortured and treated Palestinians like garbage for decades. They take a position like that and say it's anti-Semitism. So her idea, even if we were to just kind of like play devil's advocate and assume all these different people that are speaking out against Israel are haters of Judaism, still, I don't support going after them in a real life manner, because I don't think writing mean things or offensive things about people online should be enough to get someone in trouble within the context of their real life. So that's my spin on that. Now, as far as what DeSantis wrote about Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, and Madison writing the Federalist Papers, and they were anonymous when they wrote it, that's literally apples and oranges. There was no social media back in the late 1700s, so it's total just a lousy comparison. I think what it is that a lot of, and Ramaswamy does this too, a lot of these conservatives think that because they name some historical figure, it makes them sound smarter than their opponents or the other people around them. Ooh, look at all this stuff I know. I brought up this person. It's like, yeah, but the context you're using this in is not good. You're talking about these writers who were anonymous, not because they hid their faces and wrote stuff on websites, but they wrote some papers and weren't famous at the time. It's two different things. Because even Haley's proposal doesn't stop an unknown person like myself from being able to post things. So Haley's proposal it's got a nice idea behind it, but it's not something that I think should be implemented. I don't think it's gonna be this complete destruction of free speech as DeSantis is trying to say, but his comparison is also stupid. It's like, I want to criticize her for even having an idea like this, because any person that's actually been on social media and uses these sites knows it's not that easy to just filter out a person's true identity. But then I also want to defend her because DeSantis's attack on, response to her is goofy, and the fact that he dug up that old George Floyd tweet is even more disgusting. So it looks like in trying to take her down, he made himself look bad, which is a running theme of his campaign, and one of the reasons why he keeps sinking and sinking and sinking and sinking and sinking and sinking and sinking.